just coincidental came out the same. Okay? Alright, we're ready to move on. Number 8. The drawing below shows how a square centimeter and a square meter compare. So we have a square centimeter, square meter here. In general, this is not something that we type, but you should always keep in mind that the figures or shapes are not drawn to scale. That's something we shouldn't have to type because you're using what you learn in math and not just by looking at them. Okay? Alright, so it says, are a square centimeter and a square meter similar? And there's two options here, and we're leaving it like this with the two options because, and I'm going to move this so you can see it a little bit better. We're leaving it like in this format because we want you to be able to understand if it's yes or no, and then takes you in different directions here. This problem, as I forgot to list, is worth 3 points, so I'll type that in right now. There's a question here. So you need to answer the question first. Are a square centimeter and a square meter similar? Here's where your answer goes, and then the other 2 points are from here or for here. So let's first figure that out. Yes, no, maybe so. How are we going to figure that out? Alright, if we have one of something and one of something here and one of something and one of something, whatever we multiplied this by to get this, it's the exact same thing here. This is the same as that, and that's the same as that. So we must have multiplied that by the same thing to get that. So that gives us an easy answer of yes, they are similar. Alright, now that we see that it's yes, it says, what is the scale factor from a square centimeter to a square meter? Alright, we're going to have to use some knowledge that you've learned in science to figure this out. What is the scale factor from a square centimeter to a square meter? Alright, since they're in different formats here, this is in centimeters and that's in meters, we can't really answer the question yet. We've got to convert one of them. I think it's much easier to convert meters into centimeters. Problem is, how many is it? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? Is it 10? You can't remember, so use what you know in science. It's okay to draw one of these off the side if you need to. Alright, so right now, what do we know? We got to figure out what 1 meter is in centimeters. Alright, so you have kilometers, hectometers, decameters, meters, decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters, and you got to figure out what it is in centimeters. Alright, are centimeters smaller or bigger than meters? And the answer is they're smaller. Millimeters are really small. So since these are small, it's going to take more of them to equal 1 meter. So when you go this way, it's in base 10. So it takes 10 decimeters to equal a meter. Then you just keep multiplying by 10. It takes 100 centimeters to equal, I got to make this a little wider, to equal 1 meter. So if we need to go to millimeters, you multiply that by 10, and it takes 1,000 millimeters. If we needed to go the other way, which we don't, because we've already got our answer right here. I mean, we're not done, but we're halfway there. If we need to go the other way, you divide by 10. And I'm going to probably have to stretch this one. Okay. So 1 meter is the same thing as 0.001 kilometers, or 1,000th of a kilometer. Alright, so we know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So let's use that knowledge and let's change this so to make it a little bit easier on us. 100 centimeters. And I got to stretch this one out as well. Same thing here. That's going to be 100 centimeters. Now I only use that other document just to show you if you forgot what the how it corresponds, but a lot of you guys might know this already. Alright, so 1 centimeter and this is 100 centimeters. So now, what is the scale factor from the square centimeter to the square meter? So now we can get our answer. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And our answer is 100. How do we know that? Because we multiplied the width by 100 to get the new width, and we multiplied the height by 100 to get the new height. What is the scale factor from the square meter, so the big, to the small, to the square centimeter? This one is not as easy. But in class, as we talked about, when you go from small to big, it's going to be a big whole number. And when you go from big to small, you must have multiplied this by a fraction or a decimal to get to this. And remember, all you had to do is take the reciprocal or inverse of what this is. This is the exact same thing as that, 100 over 1. 100 is the same thing as 100 over 1. Again, but none of us write that because there's no need and it's obvious. But I'm doing it so you can see what happens down here. When you take the reciprocal or the inverse, you're going to get 1 over 100. See how it's just this flipped upside down? Alright, and then it says if no, what the answer wasn't no, so we can ignore all this. We don't need this. We finished A. Now B says how many square centimeters are in a square meter? So how many of these, because that's a square centimeter, are inside of this? Again, remember the figures are not drawn to scale, so don't take out a ruler and try to measure this or cut it out or visually say, oh, that looks like about 4. You've got to use the math involved to figure this out. Asking how many square centimeters are in a square meter is the same thing as saying how many copies. So again, we're looking at those two shapes, how many copies of that will fit in there. So when I come down here, how many copies? Remember, it's the scale factor squared. Alright, well, what was the scale factor? The scale factor was 100. So again, we have to square that. Well, 100 squares is the same thing as saying 100 times 100. Alright, so 100 times 100 is 10,000. So we have our answer. 10,000 of these will fit in there. 10,000 square centimeters will fit in a square meter. Alright, again it said explain your reasoning. This is actually an explanation because you showed me that you understand that I had to take the scale factor and square it to get my answer. So you could do it like this or you could write it in words. But by showing me all of your work here, that is an explanation. If you want to back it up and write it in words again, just in case to be safe, in case you're worried about marking it wrong, go ahead. You're never going to get something marked wrong if you put a lot of extra information or more than you have to. Alright, the last problem dealt with copies.